This is Greg Troutwine with Maritime Reporter TV, and we're very pleased to be joined today by Tomas Tillberg and Carlos Reyes of Tomas Tillberg Design. First off, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg,
for having us here. Thank you.
Okay. So, gentlemen, I'm sure many people watching this very well know the Tomas Tillberg Design name. But to start us off, can you give a brief overview of your business with insights on some of the projects that you have currently ongoing in your portfolio?
Okay, I can start off. And I started working with my father, Robert, at a very young age. And through the years, I've kept my family and my father's legacy. The family, meaning my father and I, we've been in the passenger vessel design for well over 50 years. I think if you just put the year on it, it's probably 58 years by now. And we have worked for many of the top cruise lines in the world and developed very interesting projects along our professional life. So then for over 20 years ago, my father decided to sell up prior offices in London and Sweden to former employees, and we concentrated on our operations here in the US. That was in connection with that my father also retired.
Well, now, as it relates to the projects and the work that we are doing now, I think that we have been very fortunate through this time. And right now we are developing a fairly large contract. We are developing 10 vessels for a company that we have worked for many, many years. Also, we are participating in a very interesting project for a very well-known operator in Scandinavia, in which our role is completely different. It's not as a designers, we are working with the shipyard to ensure that the shipyard can deliver what the owner wants in their vessel. It's a very large RoPax vessel. And also we are developing a very large residential project. We are developing a scientific vessel, like cutting-edge scientific vessel, which is something very unusual. And we are also developing a very interesting project that has a very special concept. It's a concept that the majority of what it has is about health, well-being, exercise, good food. It's a very interesting concept that we have been working on already for 2 years, maybe a little bit more. There are another 2 projects that we were working on, but because of the current situation, they were put on hold at the moment.
Gentlemen, obviously, this might seem like a silly question given your position and integration into the passenger vessel and cruise industry, but can you discuss COVID-19 and how it has materially impacted your business to date?
Oh, the short form would be that we've been quite fortunate. Because out of the projects that we're working on, only 2 of them were affected by the pandemic to the point of postponing the design. So in that respect, we have been very fortunate.
Okay. Well, again, I've been covering this industry for 30 years. You obviously are even longer tenured in it. As you know, previous to the pandemic, the cruise industry was going through a meteoric rise. More ships coming online than ever before. Now that all has been shuttered. As cruise operators consider bringing these vessels back online, what are some interior or design modification considerations that they might want to start talking about?
Well, all the cruise lines and basically all of us in the industry, we are working very hard to come with a solution or to many solutions that could offer 2 different things equally important. One is that the passenger is truly safe on board the vessel. That's the important. And the second is that the perception of the passenger of being in a safe place is there. That it's very obvious that things are happening and they feel comfortable. So from the design perspective, we are very conscious that one of the things that people are very conscious right now is the density of people in a given space. You know, the restaurants, they have to operate that have the capacity. Most of the restaurants, they try to operate with outside tables. When people feel that they are kind of crowded in a space, that gives them a completely negative sense of safety. So right now we are working on solutions that it takes advantage of the space the best we can, but is giving the customer, the guest, the feeling that they are safe on board the ship. Obviously, the ship in his turn is doing a lot of efforts, operationally speaking, to ensure that.
Okay. Well, even before COVID-19 hit, obviously the health and safety of passengers was a prime concern for any cruise operator. Can you discuss in your career just the evolution of changes that you have seen that have helped to improve onboard health and wellness?
Well, we've seen in the past, before the COVID hit us, we saw instances where cruise ships got infected, and that was a very serious matter for the cruise ship owner. And then sanitation methods were implemented, and for instance, hand sanitizer were placed, and we have some rules and regulations were improved regarding this. For instance, we have in a dining room, you have to have a hand wash as you enter or as you leave the dining room, things like that. This happened even before the COVID virus hit. So now what we see is occurring is that the companies will come with new ideas and new materials and new design solutions that will be more cutting edge in this respect. And the companies who really are on the forefront of that has a lot to gain, I think.
So when the smoke clears and people start cruising again en masse, how do you envision that cruise ships will look different?
We have been working a lot on that and trying to figure out how is it that is going to change. And we believe that one of the main elements that will be changed is the space per passenger ratio in the public areas. When you're in the cabins, it doesn't make that much difference because you're with a person that you are in your normal life anyway. So it doesn't make that much of a difference. But in the public spaces, the space by passenger ratio for sure is going to change because of the reasons we were discussing before. People need to feel less crowded. That gives a sense of safety. And also, for sure, the outside decks and the open areas will be a lot more utilized than before. You see it even in the cities where you go out for dinner or whatever. All restaurants and venues have put outside tables as much as they can because people feel much safer, and actually it is proven that if you're in the open area, you have a lot less risk. So we see that it will change significantly in that matter. Once you change the layouts, trying to achieve more space per passenger, the whole layout of the ship change, of course. And we believe that that's a major change that will happen soon.
If I expand on that a little bit, for instance, you know, we'll be more conscious of how people move around on a ship. How do you create the safety that the passenger will be looking for, you know? And there will probably also, one thing that we're looking at is that how can you create more open areas and areas outside, things like that. So there's a whole new sort of family of ideas and designs that you have to grapple with, and it's a nice challenge actually. And I think sometimes these challenges, they actually bring forth better designs in general too. We sort of get off the beaten track, you know, and we have to rethink things, which is very good from a design viewpoint.
Also, just to give you an example, Craig, on what Thomas is saying, in some areas, trying to achieve that is not so complicated. Like if you have open areas that you're doing different designs and you're going to utilize differently, that's not so complicated. There are other areas which are very critical and much more difficult. To give you an idea, the passenger corridors. The passenger corridors is a very narrow space where at certain times, for instance, after you come back from shore or at dinner time, you have a tremendous traffic of people in those corridors, and it's cross traffic. So people are walking in both directions at the same time. So there is a point in which you cross with the person walking in the opposite direction at probably 60 centimeters distance, very, very close to each other. Those are much more difficult areas to take care of, because it's almost impossible to control. We are working today actually in designing a way in which the corridors could be utilized in a certain way, trying to minimize that effect. But that's something that will happen yes or yes, so we have to work on that.
Okay. Well, it sounds like it's going to be a function not only of design, but also processes on board the ship.
100%. Actually, the processes and the cruise lines are taking very serious measurements to really optimize their operation and thinking differently because of what is happening now. And if you think about it, cruise lines are very good at doing that. Cruise lines operate every day in ways that nobody else operates, because you don't have the resources that you will have on land. So right now, the cruise lines are really putting all their efforts in creating an operation that gives the safety to the passengers.
Okay. Thomas, you referenced it earlier. You were talking briefly about materials on board ships. Mm-hmm. Now, as you know, having done this for so many years, materials in the marine environment are a challenge to start with. They have to meet certain safety criteria. Designing a room at sea versus a room on land is completely different. In specific regard to COVID-19 and future health concerns, do you have any specific insights on materials that might come to the fore as a result of this?
We're looking at this all the time, as you know. The materials and new materials are very important for us. And now a lot of focus is on what new materials will help in preventing the spread of COVID. So there are already suppliers who provide surfaces that are, shall we say, COVID resistant, and also very easy to clean, even fabrics. So this is something that we're looking at all the time. And we rely on the manufacturers and the scientists they work with to develop these materials, but we're very alert to whatever comes up now.
Obviously, a lot of our focus in the previous 5 to 6 years is focused on the new construction. There's been a lot of new ships being built. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's a lot of ships out there that are just sitting at anchor waiting to be reactivated. In this regard, when you look at the potential for ship modifications, what's the picture that you see in the years to come?
I think that there will be a lot of opportunities, without a doubt, to work together with the cruise lines and come with very, very innovative solutions. Because, as I see it, in the future, the selection of a given cruise line by the customer is not going to be driven only by the itinerary or the food or the entertainment or the price. It's going to be heavily driven by at what point you feel safe bringing your family on board, and how you perceive that your family is safe on board a given brand. So that opens a lot of opportunities to improve on the spaces and to think differently, because you know what it is true today for us, it will not be true tomorrow. So we have to think not only for today, we have to think for tomorrow in a way that the ships can be operated and that the guests have this additional element for selecting one cruise line or another.
Again, I know from our previous experiences together, you have quite a vibrant business of building cruise passenger vessels in China. Can you give me an update on the projects there?
Well, fortunately, the projects in China were affected very little. At the very beginning of the COVID-19, of course, as we all know, the virus started in China. So it was a completely unknown virus. Nobody knew what to do. but China kind of closed completely for over a month. You could not do anything. Nobody could go out of their houses for any reason. So the shipyards shut down as well as the entire country. So of course it was a month or 5 weeks, very heavy when you were allowed to go twice a week out to get food and one time to take the trash out, nothing else. So, but as a result of it, the virus went away very quickly. There was nobody else to pass the virus to. So it kind of set the projects back a little bit for a month or so. But once the shipyards open again, the recovery was pretty steady. And right now we are on the designs of the 5th ship out of the 10 for Sunstone, and there is no delay at the moment. The other project in the other shipyard was delayed a little bit because it's a much larger vessel, but everybody's working towards having it delayed delivered on time. So we think that we were very fortunate given the circumstances, and the projects have not been harmed in any way.
From a design viewpoint, it's interesting because our clients are not around here. So in the past, we traveled and met and did presentations and gathered together to figure out exactly what to do. Now all of that is virtual, so it's all like we're talking now, and this is working very well. And actually, I mentioned to you before, Greg, that our office has been used to work like that for many years now. And that is very much like thanks to the cooperation that I have with Carlos, that really started that evolution. So we were, even in that, we were fortunate that it was not an abrupt transition. It was something that we were used to, and we could very easily adapt to with our clients.
It's always a pleasure to see you both and to talk to you both, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you
Greg.
very much.